Hello and welcome to the AIM webinar series. My name is Mike Ellen and I serve AIM Inc. as their Member Engagement Manager. AIM is the trusted worldwide industry association for the automatic identification industry. For nearly half a century, AIM has provided unbiased information, educational resources, and standards to providers and users of these technologies. AIM membership provides access to an insider's perspective on trends and opportunities, along with a voice in shaping growth and future of the industry. AIM member benefits include education, advocacy, and community, as well as a role in creating industry standards through collaboration. AIM is an investment in your future. Also joining us today is RAIN RFID Alliance's Carrie Cruz. Carrie, can you tell us a bit about RAIN?
Yes, thanks, Mike. So this is Carrie Krause. I manage marketing for the RAIN RFID Alliance. The RAIN Alliance is a nonprofit organization focused on passive UHF RFID technology. RAIN technology connects billions of everyday items to the internet across many markets and industries, and that will be clear in this webinar. RAIN technology can help companies develop and maintain sustainability for their products and services. This webinar is aligned with our goal to accelerate the adoption of RAIN technology, and Lauren's company, TransparentPlanet, is a member of the RAIN Alliance. So thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Carrie. Today's presenter is Lauren Roman, the founder of TransparentPlanet. Lauren will be presenting a circular economy and unprecedented opportunity for AIDC. Before Lauren gets started, I would like to direct your attention to your monitor to review a few housekeeping items before we begin our presentation. First, you will notice that you are muted throughout the presentation. Please do not use the raise hand option during this webinar presentation. If you have any questions during the webinar, please click the chat icon on the top right of your screen. After this, you'll see a chat dialog box at the bottom right of your screen. Make sure in the Send To box you select Host, and then in the box below type your question. We will try to answer as many questions as we can after the presentation. Also, throughout the presentation, we will be engaging in you in some poll questions. The poll questions will pop up on your screen when I launch them, and we ask that you quickly respond to the inquiry. Once polling is finished, you can simply X out of the question once poll results are closed. AIM would like to thank TransparentPlanet and RAIN for their support of today's event. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Lauren Roman.
Well, thank you very much, Mike, and good morning, Carrie, and everybody. Thanks so much for joining. I'd just like to begin with a quick background on me, since many on the call probably don't know me. I've spent many years in the environmental industry, primarily in electronics recycling. Anybody who knows anything about that industry knows that it's fraught with problems, and most of them really have to do with lack of tracking and accountability. So that led to my interest in learning about AIDC and RFID, and I learned that not only can this technology help the recycling industry by reducing loss and waste and energy, use of energy and resources, and also authenticating the supply chain, but I realized that it really had the power to accelerate achievement of sustainability goals, and I'll be going into exactly what this word sustainability means. I also realized that the AIDC and sustainability communities were virtual strangers. There's a big chasm between the technology folks and the sustainability folks. So my goal today is to explain to you what's happening right now in the movement toward a circular economy. And the exciting thing about this for me, and hopefully for you, is that most of what I'm going to be talking about has happened this year, so it's really current. You're really in the right place at the right time, and I'm going to show you how to take full advantage of this opportunity. Next slide. So if I do my job today, I'm going to help you understand what the circular economy is and the key role that intelligent assets play. I'll give you resources for new business opportunities, and I'm going to equip you with actionable steps so that when you walk away from this webinar, you'll know exactly what you can do to navigate opportunities in a circular economy. Next slide. So the definition of a circular economy is one that's restorative and regenerative by design and aims to keep products, components, and materials at their highest utility and value at all times. Next slide. Here's an example of what we're doing today and these circular models that we really need to move to. So on the left here, we have a linear economy. We take resources, we make products, and maybe they get recycled and then they get disposed of. In a circular economy, a lot of times the control of the product remains with the manufacturer. So it will go to the consumer for use, and the resources will be recovered when that product is no longer useful, and those resources can be returned back to the manufacturer directly or after processing through an intermediate processor or recycler. Next slide. Well, how is the circular economy different, really, from traditional recycling? We've been talking about producer responsibility for many years, and in that regard, there are some similarities, but in traditional recycling, materials are downgraded. Probably most of you have a container in your house where you're able to throw all your recyclables in at once. And when you do that, things get contaminated, and it takes a lot of energy to separate them. So the materials get downgraded, and the responsibility for reuse falls on the consumer. And we've seen for decades that that doesn't work very well. In a circular economy, we're designing out waste from the very beginning. And material recovery, repurposing, and recycling can actually stay with the manufacturer. And RFID and AIDC can support this. Next slide. This word sustainability, I was surprised to find that many of my closest friends, many of whom are tree huggers, had really no idea what it meant from a business perspective. So a traditional business model, the bottom line that we talk about is stockholder value. It's just the economics of the decision that's being made. In a sustainable business model, every business decision is made with people, planet, and profit in mind, and equally important. So when when a company, gathers around that boardroom table and is making decisions, it's not just about making money, but it's also about how that decision is going to impact the people that work there, the people in the community, the people in the supply chain, and also the impacts on the planet. It's a triple bottom line, and it's involving all stakeholders. So as I said, employees, suppliers, customers, and stockholders as well. Next slide. This year, the World Economic Forum's theme was mastering the fourth industrial revolution. And being in this industry, I'm sure you all know that what they're talking about predominantly is the Internet of Things. And they concluded that under a business as usual scenario, by 2030, we're going to need 2 Earths at the rate that we're consuming resources right now. That's only, 14 years away, so that's kind of scary. Next slide. And they also concluded that over $1 trillion a year could be generated by 2025 for the global economy, and 100,000 new jobs created within the next 5 years if companies focus on encouraging circular supply chains. So the circular economy movement is really, the word economy is an important part of it, because and of course that is the bottom line that they're talking about. Next slide, please. As I said at the beginning, so much of this has just happened this year. A little bit of recent history. In September 2010, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation was launched. And if anybody doesn't know who Ellen MacArthur is, she started this nonprofit. She was the fastest, actually, she was the first woman to sail solo around the world, and came back and decided that she was going to do it again, and became the fastest person ever to sail solo around the world. So being at sea all that time, I guess she had a lot of time to think about the condition of the world. And when she came back, she founded the Ellen MacArthur Foundation with $500,000 of her own money, and with $6 million in donations from 5 founding partners, including Cisco and Renault and others. The mission was to create a restorative and regenerative economy by stimulating thought leadership around circular economy and becoming a catalyst for innovation. And I'll talk about that just a little bit more here in a couple minutes. In December of 2012, the European Commission came out with a manifesto for a resource-efficient Europe, and they did that because of the growing pressure on resources and the environment in Europe. In 2014, a proposal was issued for a new waste management system, but it really wasn't new. It was really just a remake of the old linear model that was struggling along and really not working. So they withdrew it, and they looked at this manifesto for a resource-efficient Europe and said, you know, this is our opportunity to get this right this time. In 2015, a European Action Plan for a Circular Economy was published. Next slide, please. And just in December of last year, so just 7 months ago, they adopted this circular economy package and mandate. It includes revised legislative mandates on the waste reduction and recycling, so they came out with new models on how they were going to approach waste management. And the really impressive thing was they put their money where their mouth is and funded this establishment of circular economy models with over $6 billion of funding. Next slide. In February of this year, Ellen MacArthur and McKinsey came out with this report, and I strongly suggest that, that you download it, go to their website and download it. It's Intelligent Assets, Unlocking the Circular Economy Potential, and this is what really connects you to this whole circular economy opportunity. There's an addendum to this report that has 17 case studies, and they all involve the Internet of Things. And you can get that, download that for free right on their website. Really interesting. Next slide, please. Here's one example of a circular economy model that you all likely have heard of before is a products as a service model. And what that does for manufacturers is it helps, and retailers, it helps establish lifetime customer loyalty, produce better products, and use less raw materials, energy, and produce less waste. Some examples of this are Philips Lighting. You may have heard of this model. They'll go into a building and they'll install the entire lighting system, and the building owner does not own or purchase the system. And they can remotely monitor it, they can maintain it, and replace it as needed. So they're keeping the efficiency very high. They're not putting the onus for maintenance and improvements on the owner, and they're maintaining that lifetime customer connection for as long as the lease is in place. Desso Flooring is a carpet company, and they have do a similar thing. They install residential and commercial carpeting, and they don't sell it. They lease it, and they maintain it and remove it and replace it when it gets worn out, and they recycle it. Next slide, please. March of this year, UPS came out with a study showing that 86% of sustainability executives see circular economy as important to their business. And the strongest growth that they found was in electronics take back and reuse. And as you all know, anytime you're putting something out and bringing it back, having RFID and AIDC to be able to track that material is critical. Walmart invested $5 million in sustainability and is reaping over $500 million a year in savings. They have a 3% profit margin, so that represents $16.7 billion in sales. So once again, this circular economy thing is not just a, people and planet thing. It's really about the economy. Apple recovered over $43.5 million just in gold from their electronics take back in 2015. That doesn't even include their revenues from steel and copper and aluminum and plastic and so forth. Next slide. Again, sustainability as a business strategy. It gives businesses a market opportunity and advantage. it helps with brand reputation, it helps establish goodwill and company resilience when things go bad. When companies operate with people, planet, and profit in mind, it's less risky for customers. A really important part of it is it gives them access to investment capital. There's $3.07 trillion invested in sustainable enterprises. And if any of you have heard of the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, it reports on sustainability performance of 6,500 public companies. And those companies exhibit 40% faster growth than other companies in the Dow. For talent acquisition, excuse me, and retention, we all hear nonstop about millennials. And obviously, if you're hiring new young people for your businesses, those are techie millennials, and Deloitte did a survey again this year, and 70% of those millennials cited a sense of purpose as one of the main reasons why they were working where they do. Fast Company, again this year, came out with a report saying that 90% of millennials say they really want to use their skills for good when they find a job. So really important in acquiring talent. Next slide, please. When I was putting this together originally for AIM and for the AIM Global Summit, I was looking around to corporate websites trying to see, where is this whole industry in terms of sustainability? And I did these website searches, and you can see here what I found. When I searched for sustainability on RFID and AIM member websites, I found no results. So I thought, well, maybe they're calling it something else. So I went back and I did it again for corporate responsibility, and I got the same result. And this was numerous sites that I visited. So I decided to go look at the organizations and see, well, maybe they're talking about it. And here you can see that Chuck had made a comment about sustainability of AIM as an organization, but he wasn't really talking about sustainability in the context that we're talking about it today. And on the RAIN website, somebody from Intel actually was talking about sustainability, so I got a little bit closer, but just kind of gives you an idea where this chasm is. Next slide, please. Well, let me be quiet here for a second and give you guys a chance to ask a question. Has your company deployed solutions that reduce waste, save energy, resources, water, and/or authenticated the supply chain? Here you can take a moment to answer the question. Okay, next slide. You have the advantage here. You're in the right place at the right time, as I'll say a number of times. A circular, sustainable economy is dependent upon authenticity and accountability, and obviously that's what your technology does. You're already doing it. I strongly urge AIM and AIM members to really leverage that RFP service that you have on the website. It's a fantastic tool, and the thing that I really like about it is you don't need to know anything about AIDC or RFID to use it. And taking the first step, I think, as you all know, for your customers, taking the first step in understanding RFID and AIDC is the scariest part, and I think that really makes it user-friendly. So I think leveraging that is important. And this new vertical definitely needs you. Next slide, please. All right, let's get down to the nuts and bolts here, how to get started. There are national and international working groups that are all working on sustainable solutions that you can engage. Next slide. Back to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. They have a group called the CE100. They started with the CE100 in Europe. And it's a pre-competitive collaboration among member companies, I should say member organizations, that include large enterprises, including Cisco, Google, H&M, Nike, Unilever, and a bunch of others. Emerging innovators is another sector. It could possibly include companies like yours, governments and cities, and small and medium enterprises. AIM and RAIN really need to reach out to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and see how you can support the efforts of the CE100 and now the new CE100 USA, which was just launched in, I think it was the end of March. And, you know, remember that they wrote the report on intelligent assets unlocking the circular economy, so they really get it. And I'm happy to put anyone in touch with the new lead for the CE100 US that was just launched. Next slide. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation Corporate Citizenship Center puts on conferences every year. And this year, again, just a month ago in May, their topic was mainstreaming the circular economy. And the theme there was bringing stakeholders together to identify practical approaches for implementing the circular economy from a design, process, service, and products perspective. So lots of opportunities for RFID. And there was not one RFID company supporting or speaking at the conference or exhibiting. And if you can go to the next slide, please. This is 1 hour of sessions in one morning. And as you can see here, they're talking about circular economy approaches in electronics, food and beverage, manufacturing, and retail, key target verticals for everyone on this call. Next slide. Sustainable Brands is a really interesting organization. They help brands and sustainability and innovation professionals, so those are you guys, create and execute on new opportunities to profitably innovate for sustainability. Big opportunities here for you to engage members. You can participate in their events, sponsor their events, host webinars, submit articles. They have a great newsletter that comes out every week, actually multiple times a week, and write about case studies on how your technology can support sustainability. They have you can go to the next slide. They have a solution providers directory that every company, I couldn't even fit all the brand logos on this slide, but you can see it's kind of the who's who of brands. And they have on their website a solutions provider directory that you can go in, sign into for free and put your company information in. And I did a search in that there's 600 solution providers for these companies listed in the directory, and I did a search for RFID and I got no results found. Opportunity. Next slide, please. Cradle to Cradle product certification, another opportunity here. As you can see, they have certified 3,000 products. They have almost 200 participating companies. And look what this product is certifying. They're saying what's in your product, what's next after its use, what resources does it take to make. And as we know, those are all things that AIDC can authenticate. Next slide, please. Okay, give you another break here. Do you think AIM and RAIN should participate in these venues to promote and educate on the uses and value of AIDC? Okay, Mike, next slide. So the opportunity here is to use the circular economy momentum and sustainability to really power the sales in your top verticals. And this is just a list of all the opportunities within these organizations that you can engage. You can serve on advisory boards, go and exhibit and speak at their conferences, meetings, join their committees and work groups, so on and so forth. Next slide. It's about filling your sales pipeline. here's some opportunities in retail. The Retail Industry Leaders Association has a sustainability initiative. The Outdoor Industry Association has a sustainability working group. There are over 300 companies, not people, companies that participate in that sustainability working group. And they're, you know, Nike, Patagonia, North Face, you know, the who's who of outdoor retail and outdoor brands. And the Sustainable Apparel Coalition. The Sustainable Apparel Coalition manages the HIG index, that's H-I-G-G, and it's a standard for assessing sustainability throughout the supply chain. So, you know, these certifications are a really good opportunity for AIDC because it's so much work for them to try to track things and keep track of the data and report every year. And if they're tracking with RFID, they can so much more easily collect the data that they need for their annual reporting and to maintain their certificates. In healthcare, there's the Healthcare Sustainability Initiative. Next slide. And I just picked these 4 top verticals to give you an example. Manufacturing, the National Council for Advanced Manufacturing has a Sustainable Manufacturing Council. And for supply chain, there's a Sustainability Council in the International Warehouse Logistics Association. And here another certification, the Electronics Industry Citizenship Coalition has a certification for sustainable supply chain. Obviously much more easy to track when you're using AIDC. Next slide, please. What are your company's primary target verticals? And we'd like to know this because we may be planning some subsequent webinars inviting people from these sectors to these presentations and to engage with you. Okay, next slide, Mike. Another idea is to host a local meeting. You could call it the Internet of Things, accelerating a circular sustainable economy. This is something that I'm working on, excuse me, here in Seattle. And you can invite local sustainability organizations. Their members are business people. And you can invite the local members of those target vertical groups that I just talked about in manufacturing and retail and so forth. You can demonstrate AIDC to them, help make them familiar with it, maybe host a tour of your facility. And that will give you business leads. It'll help establish community relationships, resilience for your company, goodwill, and so forth. Next slide, please. Your salespeople, when you're doing an RFP, should find out who's the chief sustainability officer in that organization and bring that person into the sales process. Find out what their sustainability goals are and look at the solution that you're offering and find out if, figure out for them if it will indirectly address some of their sustainability initiatives like saving energy and reducing waste and so forth. You can collect and market your own case studies. You've been doing deployments for years and have salespeople go back to customers and say, have you calculated how much energy that you've saved, how much water you've saved, how much material you've recovered? You can make your own company an intelligent asset sustainability showcase. Are you using your own technology? Are you tracking your IT assets? Are you monitoring, tracking your supply chain? And then you can bring customers in and say, this is how it works, this is how we do it. Next slide. You can launch your own circular economy business model, that product as a service that we spoke about a little bit earlier, RFID as a service. You can manufacture, lease, maintain, and take back and replace your own products, readers, and so forth. Do the predictive maintenance on those things and establish that lifetime customer loyalty. Next slide. So in review, Hopefully I've addressed all these things, what the circular economy is, and what the role of intelligent assets and RFID, AIDC is, giving you resources for new business opportunities, and giving you actionable steps to go out and do this. Next slide, please. Navigating the circular economy. So I just threw a lot at you. These are all ways to build your circular economy presence. I can connect you with sustainability executives to leverage the benefits of your technology. And based on your responses to the polling questions and to the survey that will follow this webinar, as I said, we're talking about planning subsequent webinars where we'll be inviting sustainability executives to engage directly with you to learn how RFID can support tracking and reporting for certifications, accelerating achievement of corporate sustainability goals, and more information will follow on that. But it's really important that you answer respond to the survey afterwards. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and I really look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you so much. Back to you, Mike.
Okay, and I'll just give everyone a few moments. If you have any additional questions, to go to the AIM webinar series host, send me those questions, and we'll be answering those questions for you right about now. So the first question we have, I actually can answer. They asked, will we be able to get copies of slides and recordings? Yes, you will be able to get that if you did register for today's webinar. Once it is posted at the AIM website, I will be forwarding you an email with information on how to access the video and slides. Another question, Lauren, that we have, if you're ready to answer questions right now?
Absolutely.
All right. Another question that we received, can you tell me specifically how you work with companies like ours?
I would love to. So if you go to the RFID page on my website, which is under the service tabs, and that's www.TransparentPlanetLLC.com, you'll see some of the options on how we work. And of course, I'd be very happy to talk specifics with anyone at any time. And my contact information is it was actually on the previous slide.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Another question that we have received, you refer to RFID a lot, but what about barcode and other AIDC technologies?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, just last week I was speaking with a company that's sewing QR codes onto uniforms and corporate wear so that they can be tracked going to and from laundries and to reduce loss. That's a pure circular economy model. They're keeping track of assets to reduce loss so they can be used over and over again. And the QR codes can be read for fabric recovery at end of life, which is becoming a huge thing in the apparel industry, especially in cotton, because of the restrictions on use of land and water and the amount of energy that's required. They did a survey, a research study showed that by 2025, so that's, when you think about it, it seems like it's a long ways away. It's 9 years away. The expectation is that the demand for apparel is going to be twice what it is today. And the bottom line is for natural fibers, we don't have the land or the resources to do that. So they know that recovering material is going to become absolutely key, and that AIDC is going to be able to support that.
Okay, great. That basically concludes our Q&A session. Thank you to all of the participants who submitted questions. Thank you, Lauren, for your insight and knowledge into a circular economy and for providing us with this presentation today. Thank you to our audience for their active participation. I hope that you all found this information to be valuable. We would appreciate your feedback. Please take the time to complete a brief session evaluation, which will be sent out to you all shortly. This information will be used to develop future presentations in our AIM webinar series and future AIM Inc. events. Thank you so much and have a great day.